Smart Sound.
One of the things that I'm always harping on is that before you can have a good relationship with someone else, you must have one with yourself. And to do that, it requires that you really take stock of who and what you are and the things that you like and appreciate about yourself, what you're looking for in someone else to complement yourself, and the goals that you have established for yourself. Now, with young women, unfortunately, the path to that kind of self actualization isn't necessarily a smooth one. There's a lot of social cues and not even cues, I mean, just things that we're beat over the head with as we're growing up about what we must be and what we should do and what we must have. So that a lot of young women are really struggling, they really struggle with saying no and really trying to figure out who they are and what they want in life versus what someone else told them that they are and what someone else told them that they should want. You understand where I'm going with this? So you have to really, at some point, really sit down and take stock of yourself and what it is that you want out of life. Not what your parents told you, not what your friends are doing that they pressuring you to do, not what society telling you you must be, do, wear, say, all this stuff. You have to really, really understand who you are. Now, that's the preface I want to make before I go into my topic for today. I came across a very disturbing article, and then I found a couple of more and some studies that backed up this research. What the article was talking about was there were some interviews with women done by a series of psychologists to ask them what happened with their marriage. Why did they get a divorce? And, if they had any insight into it. And I tell you from this research, it looks like 30%, and this was over 1,000 women in this one study, over 30% of them said yes, that they knew that the man they were marrying was the wrong dude, but they did it anyway. And that's what we're going to talk about today is why. How do women get themselves into this position so that they're marrying somebody they already know is he's not the one. You should be going down the aisle with this fool, but you do it anyway. Now I can say, just yesterday, my cousin Candace, who helps me with the monitoring the comments, got into an interesting exchange with one of the male commenters because he was of the mind that all women want to get married, and Candace was telling him she's been with her dude like I don't know, 20, 30 years, I mean just forever seemed like, but she has never ever wanted to be married. She was the first person that I was aware of growing up that flatly said they didn't want children and they did not want to get married. And that's the lifestyle that she has lived. This guy that she's with now knew that from the gate, but for some reason he kept, every so many years he would ask her if she wanted to get married, and she'd always tell him no. So this guy who was on the site yesterday, he seemed to have a problem with that because he's like, well, if he's such a great dude, why don't you marry him? And it's like, who the fuck wants to get married? I mean, the women who do, I mean, that's great for them. But not everybody has that mindset. And it seems like a lot of guys really just can't believe that there are women who don't fucking want to get married. It's like, what's the fuck, why? What's going to be different in my life? What's going to be beneficial? And those are the kind of questions that you women need to ask yourself. I mean, unless you're going to have children, I mean, I do believe that children should be, in a family situation. Um, with both parents. But does that mean the parents have to be married? In this country, those children are better provided for with some certain benefits. But if the parents have their shit together and take care of loose ends with legal wills and declarations and whatnot, then the end result to the child is exactly the same. It doesn't really matter. So no, you don't have to be married even to have children if you handle your business. So it's it was just really interesting to read his. He was just really upset that she did not want to get married, and so when I'm looking at that, and then I started looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, a lot of these women probably should have said no to the proposal too. But then we got to ask, why did they not? What were their reasons for going ahead with the marriage anyway? And the number one reason that I've heard from women is that they don't want to be alone. They don't want to be alone. So they think that marriage is going to save them from that. And a lot of guys will use that as a battering ram. I have to admit, they'll say things like, if you're just gonna be single and old and die with some, 40 cats and this and that. So they say that kind of crude, rude, and nasty stuff to try to put women down and force them into a panic state of mind where they get married to some dude. So see, that's all mental manipulation designed to induce fear and desperation in you. I've talked about this in depth in the 25 video series I did last year about manipulative behavior of black men. So you can go and check that out. So I'm not going to go into detail about it here. But that's all designed to get you, afraid and fearful, and so that they have the upper hand. That's all that is. Don't believe a word of that nonsense. But that is a reason why some of the women, they were afraid to be by themselves. One woman says, well, she settled for the guy that she married because nobody's perfect. And this might be the most realistic one of the reasons that was given. She said she stopped looking for guys who met everything on her checklist and started looking for somebody who was decent and who loved her. She married a guy who's not perfect, but he's a good guy, and that's enough for her. And that, I think, is a realistic way to describe a compromise that a lot of women go through. And I think during our 20s, we have our fancy checklist of all, not 977 things that we want in a man. And then by the time you get a little older, you've been around the block a couple of times, you get more realistic and you realize there's only really certain things that a guy must have and do. Usually it's less than 10 things. And then you look for a guy with those particular qualities, and then you kind of be very fluid and flexible on the rest of the stuff, like height, for instance. Um, you have to make your decision yourself. I can't do that for you, but I'm just saying, out of all the reasons that I was reading, her reason seemed to be the most realistic, the most mature, and the one that ultimately got her a very, very nice guy that wasn't necessarily Mr. Perfect on her previous checklist. So she said she made that change when she turned 30. And I think that's about when it happens. Okay, reason number two, my parents loved him. And she's like, well, she didn't have any real like fireworks and heat towards the dude when she was dating him, but her parents loved him to death, and the parents just said that he was the one, and she wasn't really sure if he was or not, but she got married because she trusted her parents' vision. So it was somewhat of kind of almost like an arranged marriage in that they, pretty much picked a dude for her and then pushed her towards him. They've only been married a year as of this interview, so who's to say that it won't work out very, very well for her? Because parents tend to know their children, and they know, especially the dad would be able to tell if the dude is a decent sort or not. So, I mean, she probably made a decent decision, but she was looking for these fireworks and all of that. That's like teenage shit. That's nice if you have it, but you shouldn't pick a partner based solely on whether you have fireworks, because them fireworks relationships usually go up in smoke anyway. This third girl says, well, I wanted to get the show on the road. She was about to turn in 37. She figured that it was now or never. She wanted to have children before it was too late. And so she'd asked the dude that she was dating if he would get married. And so basically he was just the dude that was there at the right time, and so she picked him for that reason. But I mean, he could have always said no, so assuming he had some interest in that as well. Otherwise, he would have just said, no, I don't want to get married. So they're happily married and on about their business. Okay, so then the girl number four says that this dude made the cut. And all her friends were getting married, and she just didn't, feel comfortable being the only one that was single. And she was dating two guys, and she decided that the one that she's married to was, the best of the two. That he wasn't perfect or anything. He wasn't like her knight in shining armor or anything like that. But she wanted to settle down, and so she just picked him. Okay, so again, she, pretty much just took him because he was the dude that was there at the right time. Another woman says that she felt like her biological clock was ticking. She was getting older. She wanted to have a kid, and she thought about just doing the artificial insemination thing. But then she said, "Well, let me just spend a little bit more time dating." And then she found a guy that she enjoyed being around, and they're not madly in love, but she married a guy that she can stand and who can deal with her, and she just didn't really want to be single anymore. So again, she pretty much just went around, and her situation was more fear based, that she didn't want to be too old to have children and all this stuff. So she got with the guy who was there. This also happens when you have relatives that are pushing you towards getting married. You hear that sometimes, some of these women say, well, my mother was pushing me to have a baby and there's no sign of a husband. The mother just wants her to be a single mama. And the girls are like, no, I'm not going to do that just so you can be a grandmother. That's real selfish. You want me to use my womb and my body to fulfill a dream that you have? Get a cat, dog, a bird, something till you fulfill your need to nurture something. Don't be trying to use your daughters for that kind of shit. I was so appalled. I was disgusted. Another woman says that her friends were pushing her towards getting married. She had commitment issues, so her friends said, and that she needed to just swallow it and just get married and just take the plunge. She had been dating this guy for a couple of years, 3 years. She felt like she had cold feet, but she says they've been married for 6 months. I'm honestly not sure if it's love or if I just settled. That is a terrible, terrible feeling. Oh my God. And the last woman says that she didn't think the grass was greener. I don't think I found the one, but I also don't think the grass is greener. I found someone who's decent, a human being, and that's enough for me. I don't think crazy love exists. I think you should find a person who's good enough, settle down, and that's that. So she's got a very pragmatic attitude about the whole thing. Most young women don't. She's in her mid 30s. I think most young women want, they want the knight in shining armor fairy story to come true. And I think really a lot of women, before they even walk down the aisle, they already know the dude is not right for them. So ultimately, that is why there's so many divorces, because you went into it with the wrong man. You should have never married. He might be a great guy. He might be a really good guy, a really, what do they say, nice guy, all this good man, all this stuff. But that doesn't mean he's right for you long term. That doesn't mean he's good husband material for you. He might be a good husband material for someone else. That's why I said you guys have got to do the work necessary to figure out who you are. Who are you? Who? And you work to fulfill that person. Stop always just thinking that you have to be something based on what other people's expectations are. Other people say, well, you have to sit down and keep your legs closed. You fuck whoever you want to fuck. Do it responsibly. You have to, you shouldn't have dating multiple men at the same time, because that's not a good girl and that's not what men want. Fuck them. How they gonna know? Unless you open your big ass mouth and tell them. See, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. You guys have absorbed all these messages from society and from your churches and from your religion and from stupid ass motherfucking men that you don't even damn know. And then, all this stuff. And you put it in your head that this is how you must be. And you go through your life living within these barrels, these cages that you put your mind and body in, trying to please other people and meet their expectations. You have to stop doing that. You have to look inside your head and your heart, figure out who you are, and then you be the best you that you can be. Have the courage to do that. It's going to take a lot of strength because people are not going to understand why you're changing or what they, why you're so different. Well, you used to not be like this. You used to not act like that. You used to not say things like that. Okay, well that was the old me. This is the new me. Fucking get used to it. So but you have to have the strength to do that kind of thing and to walk a path that you define for yourself. This is the situation that happens when young women are getting married to men that they already know are wrong for them, but they're succumbing to the pressure to be married. Now, I had a personal experience like this. One of my friends' daughter, I don't know how old she was about the time, I don't know, late 20s, early 30s, something like that. She had this boyfriend who was an abusive little fuck. I mean, to the point where on her first date with, well, I don't know, maybe say third or fourth date, they're going walking down the street and he wants to play fight with her. Now, these are adults. You don't play fight. You're a grown man hitting a woman. That's essentially what it was. So she was talking about it, right? And I was thinking, okay, that guy is a trip. He was testing your boundaries for taking abuse. And I told her right there, I said, that is nobody that you should ever go out with ever again. And she's like, well, why? He's so cute. He's so nice. He's so this and that. I said, any man who would put his hands on you like that, whether he's trying to play it off as a joke or not, he's dangerous and you need to leave him alone. Sure enough, years go by and they still mess around off and on. And I heard about some other kind of violent thing where he held a knife to her throat or something, or to her face, or I mean, something like that. I mean, her dad had to get involved. The police had to get involved. I mean, she had a restraining order on at one time. Do you know the dumb little girl still married him? Now I think they got a couple of kids, and she's entrapped. But the guy, I mean, she was succumbing to pressure from her mother and other female relatives that were telling her that she should get married because she was not getting any younger and she should have her kids while she's still young, and that they had already been together for so long, why not? This kind of stuff. And all I could see was, this is a disaster. This is a disaster. She's going to end up hurt or dead. This guy is crazy. And, I don't know what happened. I don't really associate with them folks anymore. But that really was disturbing because all the handwriting was on the wall for everyone to see that this guy was a bad news. And there's no way she should have ever even continued dating him, let alone married him. Now, another reason that women give for continuing in bad relationships and then, I mean, I guess ultimately pushing for marriage, or if he proposes, they accept, is this belief that, well, I've been with him so long, I've invested all this time already. I hear that a lot in my advice column. When the women write to me, one of the chief things they always point out is how much time they spent together. Time seems to be very important to females for some reason. I don't know. I don't get it. Because my thing is, I don't give a fuck if it's 10 years in one day. At that 10-year mark, I'm getting rid of your ass. If you were getting on my nerves, we're not going to waste another 24 hours on you. But they don't have that kind of mentality, and they want to emphasize how, we've been together 2 years, 3 years, 7 years, whatever. And to them, that's very, very important. So it's like an investment, and they want to get a return on it. So they think that they can somehow magically, with my assistance, change this guy to be who they want him to be. And my thing is this, he is what he is, you are what you are. If there's no meshing there, there's always some conflict and some drama, then you need to understand you're just going to be in a relationship with conflict and drama. Either take it or leave it. I like to be drama free, so that wouldn't work for me personally, but a lot of women seem to be okay with it, so I'm like, do your thing. Another reason why women go through, they continue on that path towards marriage, is there's this fantasy belief that once they say I do, the guy's going to change. I've heard that a lot. I don't know where that fantasy comes from. I can't tell you. Don't even ask me because I don't know. So I'm telling you right now, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But enough women say it, so it must be a thing. And they just think, I don't know what they think. Why do you think getting married? If anything, they get worse because now they feel like they got you. So whatever problems you had before you said I do, they're still there. And then you're gonna get some new ones because now you're considered his wife, which in some men's minds means their property. So you better I don't know what y'all be thinking, but you better rethink that. They don't change. If anything, like I said, they don't change. It's gonna be for the worse. Now, a lot of people will move forward. It's like they're on this escalator or something, moving towards marriage, and they feel like they can't go backwards because they're going to still be propelled, forward how escalators do. And they feel like they'd be embarrassed, or, lose all their money. Everybody would know that they made this mistake, so they move forward with the wedding anyway, knowing that it's going to be a disaster. I don't get that. I don't understand that at all. See, to me, a broken engagement, a broken dating relationship, a broken engagement is far better than a divorce. And if you know the relationship is shit, then get yourself out of it. Don't get married in a shitty situation and then 10 years later, you live with 10 more years of shit, and then you finally get the courage to get a divorce and end it. You should have had that courage from the get-go. I don't give a fuck if you walking down the aisle and turn and run like Julia Roberts in The Runaway Bride. That's still not a divorce. Okay? I don't know, you guys have to have more courage. You ladies, I'm telling you, marriage is not all that. I really don't understand all this pressure you put on yourself. It's really not. It seems like a lot of people want to do it because they've been told that that's what they should want, and that's in some religious text. But if you really think about it, it's really not that exciting. So, yeah, I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But don't sacrifice yourself for it. That's my point. Don't hurt yourself. Don't give up your dreams just to be married. That's my point. If you get married to somebody, it should be something that enriches your life and makes you happier and better and more powerful, and you have more support, that kind of thing. It should uplift you. If it doesn't and you feel like you're being dragged down, then you're definitely in a wrong relationship, and you usually know that before you ever walk down the aisle. The men don't magically transform into some kind of freaking beast. They were already stupid, and you just decided to ignore the stupidity because you were all fixated on this ring and a wedding and all the stuff that you were thinking about instead of thinking about the person that you're marrying. You thinking about the wedding. You need to think about the marriage. That's what I'm saying. And if you start looking at the potential disasters that you have in this partner because they've already manifested themselves in your dating relationship, but you want to go tie yourself to this fool legally and have him like all up in your mix where you can't get rid of him unless you get a lawyer and have to go to court and all this old stuff. See, no. That you're doing too much. Really need to understand what you're doing there. Oh, another reason some women give is, well, they say he's a nice guy. Why wouldn't I marry him? He's a nice guy, and I really don't want to hurt his feelings. So he proposes, and you don't really want to get married to him, but you're scared you're going to hurt his feelings. And he's been really nice to you, and you guys been together. And so you just say, okay, and to just fake all your excitement and go through all the motions while making this wedding. But you never really feel that excited about it. It's never really that big of a deal. Some of you turn into a bridezilla because your anger at yourself is manifesting in anger towards other people. You already know you're in a fucked up situation, and you should have just said no, I don't really want to get married, or I don't think marriage between us is going to work. um, have the courage to be yourself. And I'm telling you, you know in your gut when the situation is wrong and that this man is not going to be the one for you. You have to make sure that you take care of yourself mentally and emotionally, and that means, that you have to say what you feel, say what you really know, have the courage to back away from a situation. Don't just get caught up in the crowd of trying to please other people by going ahead with a marriage you don't want. Now sometimes people don't find out that their man is uh what can I say, these guys, like I said, after they get married is when they change for the worse. See, you all think he's going to turn you to the better. But, the women are like, okay with the marriage. It's all right. But then as soon as they get married, the dude does a bait and switch. I shared a story a couple of videos ago of a friend that I had in college who married a guy, and as soon as they got back from their honeymoon, he quit his job and was thinking he was going to be lounging around the house smoking weed and getting drunk with his friends in the house that her parents bought them. Really nice house, a really nice neighborhood in San Francisco. And he got a surprise when the girl's father gave his ass the boot. But that's the kind of thing that happens, you know. So she got broadsided by that. He had been like a perfect gentleman, but it just turned out he was just gaming on her because he knew her parents had some money. Her dad was a retired doctor. Her mother was some kind of professor or something. I mean, they had a little change and had done well in real estate in San Francisco and stuff. I mean, they had some money. And so he was gaming on that, thinking that was she was working and she had all this money from her parents that he wouldn't, he'd just be able to chill. And so they were like, oh hell no, I don't think so. Nick, nah, you got to get up out of here. So her dad threw him out. But this is what happens. Sometimes you get married and then the man switches up on you. They might become emotionally distant, whereas before he was all over you and everything. And then they switch up and they decide that they're going to cheat on you or something. They start being verbally or mentally abusive. They start sneaking around, going through, just you just don't trust them. They're like disappearing off for lengths of time. You're kind of confused about why. And maybe you didn't know that he was already doing that stuff because you didn't live together. You know what I mean? You were just dating. You lived in your house. He lived in his house and you lived in yours. So there, of course, were going to be times where you didn't really keep tabs on him 24 hours. But it's real obvious when you live together and you're married, you're expecting your husband to be home at a certain time, and then he keeps disappearing. Okay, that becomes an issue, and a lot of times it happens uh, they after they get married. Sometimes a woman realizes after the changes that she's witnessed that she doesn't love him as much as she thought she did. And this is where it comes in where I said people focus a lot on the wedding and not so much on the marriage. And I think that happens a lot too. You're so romantic and you're so busy picking dresses and colors and locations and all the stuff, you don't really focus on what's going on with the man that you're about to marry. Sometimes the guys, you'll find out that he's got issues like where he's taking medications, like drugs like for schizophrenia or some shit, and you don't find out till after you married to him. It's too late. Again, when you're in a situation where you're living with him, 24 hours and you get to see it. Or sometimes you just as you're going through the wedding process, you realize how different you are, how much, I mean, you were all high romance and everything until this happened. And that's a very telling phase of life, because as a couple you have to be able to work together, you have to be able to compromise and negotiate. Planning a wedding is a really good test of that. And if you two are not on the same page, or he just says, well, just tell me where to show up, and he just backs out of it completely and is unresponsive to your questions and just really seems like he doesn't want anything to do with it. Or on the other hand, the ones that want to come in and control everything, I mean, both ends of the spectrum are problematic, but it lets you know how well you two would work together. It's a good, very, very, very excellent test of your relationship. But the bottom line here, I could go on and on about this topic forever. The bottom line is you guys really have to think about what it is that you want here. I keep emphasizing this. What do you want? Who are you? How does this guy meet those needs? What kind of conflicts do you have? How do you resolve the conflicts? All of these things are things that you should be figuring out during the dating process. These should not be just brushing all the stuff under the rug and just pushing towards marriage. Marriage is supposed to be kind of like the icing on a cake that's already solid and tasty. You got me? The icing is not going to keep the cake together. It's just going to crumble. So you have to have a very solid, nice firm cake in place. If you put some frosting on it, that just makes it that much better. That is what marriage should be looked at, the frosting on the cake. You have to have a good relationship between the two of you, and that is what the purpose is of dating. That's what you're supposed to be finding out, how you two work together, how you communicate, how you resolve problems and conflicts, your values and goals for life. All of that stuff are things that you're supposed to be finding out about a man, and you should know that and be very confident that this is the guy for you before you ever even start talking about marriage. Marriage should not be discussed until all of those questions that I just mentioned have been answered thoroughly. And if you would take the time to do that and really think about who this man is, how he responds to you, and how he lives his life, then I think a lot more, we wouldn't have as high a divorce rate. The marriage rate would probably be a lot less too. But hey, you got to make a sacrifice somewhere. This is Deb Cooper from survivingdating.com, closing out another show with a reality check about marriage and women choosing the wrong men. I'll be back tomorrow with another video as we wind down video a day February. Got it, what, 3-4 more days to go? Woo! Bye, y'all.